2, 1. Chris, hello. We are back for episode 15.
How are you, Dominic?
Cannot complain whatsoever.
Feeling good today?
Feeling good, man. Feeling blessed
Feeling
to be alive.
great.
Feeling blessed to be alive. Cleveland's playing, that funny business with us. It was snowing down on us
Just
big
a
time
little
the past
tease.
month, and all of a sudden we get like 60 yesterday, and then the rain, and then it's going to snow again. So, I don't know. But you make it through. You're almost done with February. You make it through February, and then I think it's kind of like, you have your little last spurts, and then we're done.
We have no tornadoes, no earthquakes.
It's all good.
You can't complain too much.
And we get it every year, so there's nothing to complain about. We have an awesome guest today, Nicole Rosario. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate you coming out.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Nicole, if you can. Oh, by the way, awesome referral of Laura Volpini.
Yes.
Yeah.
Laura's
on a few
fantastic.
episodes.
Shout out, Laura.
Yeah. On a few episodes ago, we learned that you met her through dancing, which we obviously know now that Laura, that's her big free time hobby. She loves dancing.
One of her free times.
Yeah, one of them.
She's got a lot of passions. But yeah,
awesome.
She's a fantastic dancer.
Great. So tell our viewers and us who it is you are, what it is you do.
Okay, so as you said, I'm Nicole Rosario. I have a couple different passions in my life. I have a marketing firm, MOD, Marketing on Demand, and we also have some rental properties that we were talking about. So we've gotten into the short-term and long-term rental game as sort of a side hustle with my husband and I. And outside of that, we've been married almost 6 years and have a 2-year-old puppy that we love and that keeps us on our toes. And, he's spoiled rotten. So, life is good. We have 4 nephews and, wonderful family around us. Yeah. So we're just living life and trying to take it day by day and see what comes our way.
Tell us about the MOD, the marketing.
So my agency actually started about 10 years ago, right across the street from where we are.
You were saying that, yeah?
Yeah. So I was working for a wonderful man that originally started his technology consulting business under the name of Stone Solutions, I believe. And then it went to Stone Crossing Solutions.
Okay.
And it was right across, Rockside over there. And about 9 years ago, he acquired an interactive advertising agency out of Akron that went by several names: Peeps Creative, Polka Dot Peeps, 9 Threads, number of different names. And he basically tried to merge these 2 very different organizations. A technology consulting firm that primarily implemented CRM systems and ERP software. So your big, bulky, robust software packages that run your organizations, right? Dynamics CRM, SAP, those larger solutions with a marketing agency, right? That started literally in someone's garage and, grew into this interactive digital agency. And so you had these 2 very different worlds that were colliding, right? And I got the opportunity to meet Stuart Taylor and, we hit it off, and he brought me in to help figure out what this new world looked like. So I had the opportunity to rebrand the firm. So we went from, like I said, Stone, I think, Consulting to Stone Crossing Solutions to then Level 7, which is what it became. And the firm then, started to figure out what it was going to actually do to deliver both technology, development services, as well as interactive marketing and design. So mobile apps, websites, design services, advertising, those types of things. And so I had a chance to really, grow the team, which at that point was 6 people in this interactive advertising agency, with about 100 people at the time on the technology consulting firm, and try and figure it out. So we painted the walls green, and we brought in all sorts of things, a lot like what you have here. The very creative kind of energy. Let this new group really help develop the culture and figure out what it was going to be. And then over 5 years, we really helped to grow that organization to where it was almost about 20 people when I left. And I was part of the executive management team there. And so we were working on the strategic plan. And Stuart really wanted to get back to his deep technology roots.
Sure.
I think he enjoyed the marketing for the 5 or so years that he was in it, but it really wasn't his passion. And it was mine. And so that's when we sort of negotiated a separation. So, but the good thing, Stuart was amazing and really supported me. I always knew eventually I wanted to go out on my own. And I had a chance to figure out the type of work I wanted to do and the types of clients I wanted to serve and what my own organization might look like. And Stuart helped me basically take the business that I built with him and at Level 7 and spin it off into what is now Mod. So I had the luxury of still working with the team that I had built at Level 7. They stayed on his payroll and kind of shifted focus for the most part into what they worked on, but they were contractors to me for those first couple of years. And so I had a chance to kind of get out on my own feet, develop this new brand and this new iteration of now this agency that had essentially has been around for like 15 years, and then figure out what I wanted it to look like being the owner now. And so it was great. It'll be 6 years in July. I still partner pretty regularly with Stuart and the Level 7 team. They have now developed some custom software packages specifically for the remanufacturing industry, and they're now a client of ours. So we help with the marketing and advertising, and the website. And so we still have a very, great close partnership. And it's great that even though it didn't work out for us to continue down that journey, he was able to support me in realizing one of my lifelong goals, which was to eventually have my own agency.
Yeah.
So now here I am.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if it was a lifelong goal, what inspired this initially? Like if you go back all the way before Stuart, like what inspired you to get into like digital and graphic design, website design, all things related?
Thinking, as I'm sure everyone does before they come on the show, like what might you ask? And I was kind of wondering that, like, how did I get here? Because it always feels like I've been here, but in reality, I don't think had you asked, 18, 19-year-old Nicole, like, would I be doing this?
Did you go to school for it?
No, I started college as a television broadcasting and theater major. I ultimately wanted to be an actress and move to Hollywood and do that, but my parents were very supportive of every one of my dreams, but they also said you need to get an education. And so when I went to college, after my freshman year, I kind of started to feel like maybe the theater program and the stage wasn't really right for me. And so my family actually supported me moving in with my godmother, who was living in Long Beach at the time, for the summer. And then I could try and figure out if I was going to make it in Hollywood or if I needed to do a degree for that.
Yeah.
So I packed up and I moved to, Long Beach, and I got a casting agent, which helped me kind of get my foot in the door for infomercials and background player work and that sort of thing. And I loved it, but I realized it was way harder than I was anticipating. I did some stuff when I was there, but when I came back and I decided I was still going to get a degree, and because I did like school and I did like a lot of the stuff I was learning, but I was going to shift my focus. So I ended up coming back and shifting from television broadcasting, because really what I learned was that you were more behind the camera, which I like, but I like to be in front of the camera way better. And then theater, like I said, the stage wasn't really the right fit for me. So I went into communication because I felt like I love telling stories. I love interacting with people and learning about things, but I think TV and theater really wasn't the right fit.
So was there a moment in Long Beach where you're just like, this just isn't for, like, this just, after this event, this is just not me? Because, we had Marcus on, and he always talks, Marcus Ogden, former NFL football player, he was talking about when he was, cleaning the trash out, he's like, how did I get to this point? This is where I'm going to change everything. So was that a memorable moment for you?
I don't know if there was one in particular, but I do remember I was on the set of probably the biggest movie that I did while I was there. And it didn't have this name when I was in it, but it ended up being Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo. And so I was a background player in this, and I'm in the scene like right behind Rob Schneider when they go to the baseball game, and she has Tourette's and is literally saying like the worst things. But so what you don't know is that if you're a background player for those, it's 20-hour days.
Really?
And you're making minimum wage, right? So I loved it because I was in college and I was, meeting Rob Schneider and like big Hollywood actors and all this stuff. But I realized, again, I had a different appreciation. I think growing up in rural Ohio, I thought, I'm going to go to LA. I'm going to make it like it's going to be that easy. Like, it is hard. And those people that do the grind and continue for years and years and years and never make kind of A-list, God bless them, because it's tough. And I knew at that point, after sitting in the hot LA sun for 14 hours, waiting for my literal 20 minutes of fame, if that, I was like, I gotta have a backup plan, because I didn't think that was what I wanted to do for 20 years of my life, right? So, thankfully, it all worked out because I came back and I kind of found my passion and those types of things. And I think everything happens for a reason. But that was probably that moment that I was like, gosh, this really is tough.
Looking at Rob Schneider.
Yeah, I was like, wow. But I mean, I had great memories, met great friends, and I had a lot of really good experiences there. But that was probably the realization that I'm like, it is tough. And the people that make it, they're either really lucky or they work really, really hard and just know people. Because there's a lot of people out there grinding it every day.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The success rate is probably very marginal.
Right. And so I basically came back, and then, I found that I had a passion for, talking and getting to know people, and that passion kind of turned into where I am today.
So was there an initial entry level job that you first got in the specific industry to then kind of catapult that? It was with Stewart, or no? Was there anything else that sparked it?
I've been doing this for 20 some years.
Okay. So what was the initial spark? What was your first job, first project, this and that ultimately kind of catapulted to this?
Memory lane.
Yeah, right. So I graduated in 3 years and a quarter. So I graduated after the fall quarter of my senior year. And it was literally less than 30 days after September 11th. So it was a very interesting time to be hitting the job market, right? And I knew at that point I didn't want to go home. So home was a really small town, and I really wanted to just spread my wings and go somewhere. And my boyfriend at the time was living in Cleveland. He found a job, and I was like, I've never been to Cleveland. Let's just try it. So I moved to Cleveland and I applied. I mean, I literally was going places. No one was hiring. Everyone was afraid that the economy was going to just completely crumble. And I took a job at Metro Health Medical Center as a receptionist in the Department of Health and Training and Education. And I found that so I went to Ohio University, and I found that the vice president of communications was a Bobcat. And I had a degree in communications. And so I focused on rocking out my job, my day job in the training and education department. But I would literally show up on his doorstep every morning with coffee. And I'm like, I have a degree in communications. You need me to work for you. and I slowly just was very persistent and tried to be pleasant and show my value. And 6 months later, I got a job. They made a new position for me in communications. And essentially, their communications department is like an agency for the hospital. So you have account executives who are assigned to different departments in the hospital, and they're responsible for marketing and advertising and internal communications for their clients, their departments. And I was the assistant to everybody. So I had a chance to work with, all of these fantastic, they were all women at the time that were mid-career, 40s and 50s, and just doing amazing things. I mean, I was this 21-year-old kid that had a chance to plan events and do media relations and work with the agency was Brokaw at the time and produce all the commercials you see on TV and go into ER rooms when people are having their knees replaced and be with the team that films that. And when, the Browns player back then, one of them got seriously injured and was brought in on the team to create the aliases and protect his identity, but get the statements out to the media. I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I knew that I had kind of all these diverse skills and passions. And I really got a chance to kind of try all of them, with this internal agency. And so that was probably when I knew I was on to something. and that it, all the stars were kind of aligning.
So that persistence that you kind of envelop in everything, obviously is help propel your career, I'd say, from an early age. Even obviously going to Long Beach, right? You had to stay persistent. Is that your leadership style? Like now as a leader, do you envelop that into your customer, or not your customers, I'm sorry, your employees and everything?
Yeah. I would say that, I've always been very curious about life, right? And I love trying new things, and I love learning new things. And I think that I do best when I'm around a team that's, that soaks that in. And I'm so eager to teach and but to also learn from them. So I would say, if I had to say one of my leadership characteristics, I would probably say that it's just, I'm very passionate about learning from other people, and vice versa, teaching. I love, being able to take what I've gleaned and what has benefited me, or even the things not to do, and, to try and help the next person so they don't have to go through all of those things.
Yeah. So what would you say, like, some of your other, like, as a leader, how would you define yourself then?
Goodness. So we've done a lot of work lately with our team with personalities, and the different Myers-Briggs and Personality Plus and kind of all of those things, right? And it's interesting to me because I'm a very type A person, and on the Myers-Briggs scale, I literally, there's that measurement that it describes how much feeling, or if you're feeling oriented or task oriented. I just have zero feelings according to the scale. And I think that was I think it's still probably very true when it comes to work, but I think that over the years, I've developed a much greater appreciation for people who are on the opposite side, because that doesn't come naturally to me. And I love trying to push myself to be that, because I can be very task oriented. You set a goal, I'm going to get the goal, like, end of story.
Let's get it done.
Right. And I'm just very decisive, and I move forward, and, like, it's good. But I've had to learn that not everyone's like that, and that you have to kind of stop and smell the roses and, like, have all the feelings along the way.
What's Love Tax, the one that we do with him?
Disc
training. Yeah.
Yes.
So what is it? It's dictator.
No, it's dominant.
Or dominant,
S is steady relator, C is compliant, and then I is influencer.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it's just like a different, it's like assessments of characteristics and like behaviors and stuff.
Yes.
Like
dude, that was super interesting. Like,
I took it. It's you want to know how, like, what the questions are too? It's literally, there's like 50 questions, maybe it was like 30, and it's 1 through 4. Rank each of these words in order 1 through 4, what you most are. Number 1 meaning this is most like you, 2 least, 3 even less, 4 the least like you. And it's just 4 words. That's it. That's the entire test. And then it gives you this entire 10-page assessment of who it is you are as a person. You're like, that's scary.
But how accurate is it? I was going to say, yes, because I've done DISC. It's been probably 10 years since I've done it.
It is so cool.
But it is scary when you read it, because you're like, this is exactly me.
It's like some of the top assessment programs too, like that the FBI uses in interrogation, stuff like that. But again, I was just amazed because I asked Matt before doing it, I'm like, what do I got to know? Like, what do I need to do? He's like, I'm telling you, just take it. And I'm like, okay. So I took it, and it was, like ambitious, driven, doesn't like to speak up, like something like that, and then like soft-spoken, then another word, and it's like you list them what you are, and by listing them throughout all the questions, it literally gives you this whole assessment. It was amazing.
Wild.
Yeah,
absolutely amazing.
Yes, there's a couple others if you liked that that are free and available, especially for your teams.
Okay.
Because I've done the paid ones, I've done the free ones. There's a book called Personality Plus, quick read. It's maybe 200 pages. And they have a free online assessment. So I've done it with friends. I've done it with my team. And it is so spooky. Like
cool.
How just spot on it is. And they give a lot of real world examples about just how you, like, I think there's one in there, if I'm recalling, about like the toilet paper. For me, there is a right and a wrong way to put toilet paper on.
Oh, like if it comes this way.
Right.
Or it comes,
right. And so there's a right way to like make the bed and tuck the sheet. Like there's a way.
Yes.
Like my husband doesn't appreciate this, and so these check it out.
You said type A, right?
Oh yeah, come on, just a little bit.
Yeah,
just a smidge.
Yeah.
But I'm working on the feelings, and I have a wonderful team that they have a lot of feelings, and they're definitely teaching me.
Yeah, I think when you just, because we do it to help employee to employee,
right.
You want to make sure you're in good communication. You know, I can't work with you if I don't understand who you are.
Correct.
It also helps because we did it with our sales trainer, Matt Luptak, and that helped a ton. I think that helped a lot understanding like, hey,
clients.
Yeah, in the first 3 seconds, who's my client? Is it,
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, like, hey, how do I sell to this person? Because I'm not going to sell to somebody who's super left-sided versus somebody who's very right-sided.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'd be interested in taking it again, though, for sure.
Yeah.
And just kind of reiterating that.
It's awesome.
Well, and it's so good that you picked up on that, because I think that is such a good point that you make, that those assessments are fantastic for your teams, but really in crafting your messaging, whether it's marketing or sales, you have to understand, like, do I give them all the facts?
Yes.
Or are they quick? Like, I'm quick to decide. So I don't need all of that 9 times out of 10. And a lot of times I find that my mind is racing. And so once I think my team and people who are even selling to me figure out how I'm wired, that I want to get down to the certain things that I care about. And when you deliver messages like that, it's a better experience for both of us.
Much more effective too.
Right.
Yeah.
Because then you're not wasting your time and feeling like I wasn't listening.
Sure.
Right. But that's just the way I'm wired.
So you make those snap decisions
Really
all
quick.
the time. Like, you've always been like that?
Always.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
I'm a quick, like, I'm
That's high
quick.
D.
I talk quick. I make decisions quickly. I react quick. And a lot of times I think for some people, if they don't know that about me, it can come across as
abrasive,
that I don't care. But that's just the way I'm wired.
Do you think that's helped you, like, helped your business? I mean, I imagine sometimes, for me, I like making decisions sometimes, and maybe I should think more about maybe my decisions that I'm making, but I'm like, I feel like I'm kind of like similar. Like, I want to do it because if I think about it too much, I may talk myself out of it.
Sure.
When I know that, hey, this decision could definitely help me, and if it doesn't, whatever. But I've been in situations definitely where I've made a decision and it's definitely hurt me because I didn't think about it enough. I don't know if that's...
Well, sure. I mean, I can think back to so many things where I probably should have slowed down. But I think that, one of the things that you learn over time, right, if you're wise, is that you learn from those mistakes, right? And you kind of add it to your arsenal of how you make decisions. And there are certain things that I will pull back from if I've made mistakes, because you don't want to repeat those.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that you also have to, at least for myself, I trust my gut and my instincts. And a lot of times the problems or the challenges that I'm trying to solve for, I've solved the problem before. So it's about trusting my gut and, moving forward, or failing fast. And like I said, learning from it and adjusting. And not making those mistakes, again. But that's just naturally who I am. Is I talk fast, I think fast, I make fast decisions typically. And so that's just kind of the way I'm wired. And I love those personality assessments, because not saying that's right or wrong, that's just who I am.
Yeah.
I do also recognize those situations where I need to lean on my team that, are a little bit more... risk adverse, and I can get counsel from. Yeah. Right.
I think those that make, like, I think the longer you take to make a decision, the longer you beat yourself up about it too when it doesn't go right. Versus like the people like us three, because I feel like we're similar in that regard, where it's very quick. It's like, okay, I made this decision. It didn't pan out. Shit. Well, on to the next. Like, it is what it is.
Dominic taught me this when he's like, when you have an idea, be careful who you share it with, because you want to act on that idea, right? And yes, maybe you want to make it, in terms of time frame, it doesn't have to be a snap decision like instantaneously. It can be fast as in a day, right? Well, Dominic has taught me that, hey, listen, when you have an idea, be careful who you share it with, because they're going to end up, not even if they support your idea, you may lose energy because they're not on the same.
It's not matched energy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sure. You go spreading around to individuals who then all of a sudden make you well, did you think about this if you did? And you're like, dude, I'm not even on that. Like, I'm just trying to build the excitement of it.
Right.
You know? I think you spread yourself thin and you lose the energy behind it, which oftentimes I think the energy of a lot of people is not necessarily to be the finisher of it, but they're the catalyst to get things going. Yeah. And that's A-okay too. Like, I think then, because then you can delegate things out to individuals who then keep the process going.
Sure.
But I think for like somebody like Chris, where like ideas are constantly flowing, you have to be cautious of who it is you spread that to, because Chris is the catalyst. He's going to get it going whether you think he will or not.
Right. Pretty much.
But if you spread that around to people, then that energy kind of dies, and you're like, screw it.
And then you lose passion and everything. Right. And then I don't know why this like just irks me, or like pisses me off is a stronger word that I'll use. But like when I do have an idea and someone's like, did you think about this? Did you think about that? And maybe they're coming off as like, hey, they want to help and protect you. But for me, it almost seems like, why are you doing that? Right. I'm doing it because I want to do it.
I always felt like that too. Like, tell me if I come to you and trust you enough to tell you an idea, tell me every reason of how it is I can make it work and why it will work, versus right away coming up with like, well, hey, did you consider this?
Right.
Like, yes, I did, but let me go through that in my mind. I'm just trying to share this with you for the sake of building.
And if I fall on my face, then it's whatever. It's part of it. It's my fault.
Yeah,
like, what do you care?
That's part of it.
We always tell people at Mod, because we're designing logos and websites and things that are very personal to our clients, right? Like, they spend a lot of time on these businesses that they grow, and then the logo is it's very touchy to them. And they'll say, well, should we go out and ask people? Should we, we're going to send it to all these people on our distribution list. And I'm like, to your point, right? You want to make sure that you're not causing it to be deflated, like you were saying, or to open that, that circle of influence too wide, because then it might take something that you really were passionate about, and then you just hear everybody's opinion, because everyone has one about design, right? And so, the thing that we always say is we try to provide counsel, right, to help them kind of understand the ramifications of one design or one implementation versus another, so they understand the types of feedback they could get, or what other people could possibly see in that. But really, at the end of the day, it comes down to their personal opinion of it. Right. So we always say, like with a design, a logo, print it, put it on your wall, and look at it for a while. Like, you're going to have your initial knee-jerk reaction to things, but spend some time and only really, get those really strategic opinions from people that are your most important individuals in your life, your mentors, the other partners in your organization, because everyone has opinions about things and they do mean well.
But you shouldn't share them with everybody.
Yeah, I mean,
it makes sense.
Right, because I think you lose steam, you lose momentum, right? And it could potentially change something that you loved in a different direction.
Yep. So what do you think about this? And like, if you have an idea, and then Dominic comes to me with an idea, and I say, Dominic, like, I've tried that doesn't, it didn't work out. Like, it doesn't work. You know what I mean? Well, my experience with, hey, you invest in real estate, right?
Right.
So I could be like, no, dude, I invested all this money into real estate back pre-2008. Don't do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, what do you think about that? Do you like?
It's all subjective, I think.
Exactly. And I'm like, dude, my experience could be very different than your experience. Just because you didn't make money doing that, it's not necessarily like, that I am not. Sure. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, I think it's you have to frame up any of the information that you're getting, because the 2008 is very different than 2022. Now the market's very different. The tactics that you went by, are going to be very different. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having a trusted group that you're sharing ideas with and collecting feedback from. Yep. And you're going to want to most likely get different pieces of advice and mentorship from different people, right? Not everybody can give you the best advice on real estate.
That's very true.
So I think it's important to have those people, and I certainly have kind of different support systems and different mentors for different things. And I try to, use them where I feel like they can add the most value and contribute the most to what I'm doing, which is helpful for both of us.
Very true.
Yeah. I think that's why it's good to, like, you pick mentors at different stages of the game. Like, hey, I need somebody who's right alongside with me.
Right.
I need somebody who's 5 years ahead of me. I need somebody who's 10, 15, and I need that lifer who's actually maybe out of the business, who built it and built the legacy, to rely on them for certain things. I mean, you're not going to go to the cook to learn about how to handle like a litigation in a real estate deal. At the end of the day, you're going to go to, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. You know, so, you know, like you go to a cook to learn how to cook.
Exactly.
You know, you go to the owner of Mod, Nicole, to figure out how to build the best website. You know, so you got to go. I think it's also important to like understand who it is you're talking to and those specific things. So I'm curious to know because you're pretty much like all virtual for your business, right?
Yes.
Okay. Why take these assessments for your culture, your company, your employees? Like, what benefit has that allowed you as the overseer of the company to help it flourish a little bit more? Yeah.
So, you know, just because we're remote doesn't mean we still don't have a culture, right? Mm-hmm. You know, I like to joke that like we were doing the remote thing before it became cool, and everyone else, all the other companies that were adamantly against it before COVID, then they kind of got on the bandwagon, right? But I recognized, again, early on when I was at level 7 with Stuart Taylor, that, you know, we had this younger, I would say for the most part, average was younger group of web developers and designers, and they wanted more of that flexibility, right? They were also the people that were likely to work late and work when it was convenient for them or whenever creativity struck. And it was very jarring, I think, for that organization at first. But slowly over the 5 years, we kind of worked where, it was flexible. A couple days, you know, you'd stay out of the office, and we had Slack, and, you know, we would check in. We would have morning check-ins, and then we'd have morning meetings. And so there was still this ability to cultivate the internal jokes and the water cooler talks. And you just had to find it differently. And then when I left level 7 and started it on my own, it was just me. And, you know, there was still my contractors at level 7, and then I had a network of freelancers, but I still had to figure out how to connect with people, right? And so again, we use Slack. We do remote happy hours. We leverage a lot of the really cool things that our clients offer. And I'll give you some examples. One of them is a yoga instructor. And with COVID, his world was completely flipped, right? So we helped him get a digital presence. He didn't have a website, didn't have a logo, didn't have anything, because he had a studio before. Well, then COVID hit and he couldn't go to the studio. So we were helping him, you know, do virtual yoga sessions. And then I'm like, well, why don't you just start doing like monthly or quarterly sessions for us? So then we started doing chair yoga as a group. And so then those chair yogas turned into, okay, then they became thematic. And so on St. Patrick's Day, you know, it was like, who could have the most flair? And then our clients started coming, and then we gave prizes away for the, you know, the person that like showed up with the bling and all this other stuff. And so like we still find the same ways to do things that companies with offices do on a daily basis. You just have to think differently. Yeah. And I honestly, one of the very first hires that I made, a gentleman who's my art director and who's essentially worked with me almost a decade, he was really resistant when he left level 7 to come with me full time, because he was like, I want an office. I'm like, but do you? He had, I think, 2 kids at the time. Now he has 4. Now he loves it because he can, you know, when the kids couldn't go to school, or, you know, the babysitter, you know, had an outbreak with COVID and they couldn't go there. Now he can be a dad when he needs to be a dad. And then he works when he can, right? And so every now and then he will work from Panera, or he'll work from one of our clients' offices when he just needs that
time away,
because he is a dad of 4. You know, but we have those, you know, really great relationships with our clients. Laura, I know we keep talking about her, but she has a beautiful office in Strongsville, less than a mile from my house. She lets us use her conference rooms whenever we actually need a space, you know, cool. And the same with some of our other clients. Chris Snyder has a place literally in Independence of Impact Architects. So there are ways of getting around that when we actually need to get together. But with all of the technology, all of the ways that you can still connect, it's really no different. And honestly, with how much I travel, how much I'm in clients' offices, the people wouldn't really see me anymore if we had a physical space. because I'm on the road. You know, I'm doing shoots, or I'm doing events, or I'm having client meetings, or we're selling something. And so they'd probably get less of me in a sense, because
So did COVID have any impact? I mean, I'm sure there was some impact.
Sure.
But obviously you guys were already working from home anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting because like a lot of people's worlds were turned upside down and ours wasn't. And so at least for the first couple months, my husband, he was still, he works in an essential industry, in the construction industry. So he was out every day. And I never left. And a lot of our clients, we had to teach them how to use Zoom and, how to get on our Slack channels and those types of things. But for us, it didn't change. We did a lot of the education and here's how you do this. And then they really started to like it. So quite honestly, I didn't do any of the grocery shopping, anything in the external world. Nothing felt different for me for the longest time, except for I didn't see clients face to face. That was probably the weirdest thing. But it didn't really slow down. And in fact, we really helped a lot of our clients pivot their business model. Like I said, with our yoga instructor going all virtual now. I think he only teaches a couple times a week in person now. So he went from all, in person to like, that is a very
It's amazing how that happened.
Right.
The amount of people that just like said, well, this is it. Let's do it.
Right. And
you got a taste of it. Now have the whole thing.
Right. And we have some clients like that who are rethinking their office formats and going to co-working, centers or renting office space, because a lot of people just want to be home now. So we were doing it before it became cool.
You never found an issue with it with your business. You never, like, that was the model you preferred.
So for
did it take you a little bit of time to finally be like, all right, I can get on board with this because I see that my employees want it?
No. So I actually, years ago, I think in 2009, I worked for a small startup in Chesterland, and I was his second employee ever, and I had to do that drive from West Park to Chesterland.
Yikes.
It was a nightmare. And, it was imperative for the first couple of months because we were helping get his business off the ground. But once I figured it out, I was like, dude, I am not driving to Chesterland anymore. And so then I went 100% remote, and I worked for him for almost a year remote, and I got the bug and I loved it. And then from there, I went on to level 7. And like I said, over the years, we ended up doing kind of a flex schedule. But I liked it. I recognized that before my husband, I used to be a night owl. Now he gets up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And now I've somehow become like a mean morning person because I don't wake up until like hours after I've been up. But I find that I work really, really early and really, really late. And so, working from home, I'm able to have a little bit more of like, if there's the word balance, I don't
flexibility.
Really have. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that works for me because I
do.
get like my second wind at night sometimes.
I'm with you.
And like, I'm just.
So are you all business all day, or like, what do you do for recreation?
So I salsa dance.
Yes.
I also I love making things. I wish I was, a designer or a developer full time. I would get very bored. But in my free time, I like to do things like that. So I like to make swag. We were upstairs looking at the marketing business, right? So like I like to make things we have a property in Geneva on the lake. So I have like a little souvenir shop, and I like to make things like that. And then my dog takes a lot of energy, so a lot of walks, a lot of puppy play dates whenever we can, because he needs socialization since he's a COVID puppy, and no one came over for like 2 years, so he's a little aggressive. But we're trying to work through that. Yeah,
awesome. And you talked about real estate. Why did you get into real estate?
I love it. I think one of the main reasons is probably very similar to where a lot of people get their start. I love HGTV. And I've run out of projects to do at my own house, And so I'm obsessed with it. And when I first met my husband, like 8 years ago, he had a house and I had a house. And the only reason why I ended up moving into his house is because he had 3 bathrooms. I only had 1. So that was definitely like a no-brainer. Right. But I loved my house. I poured all of my heart and soul into that house. And so that became a rental property for us. And then my husband and I lived in his home for a couple of years until we bought our house in Strongsville, and then that became a rental property for us. And then we've slowly started purchasing others, and part of it is I just like new spaces. I like to decorate them. And now the one that we have in Geneva on the lake is a 3-year-old log cabin. I'm obsessed. I never thought I would have a log cabin, but I've just enjoyed, decorating it, and then meeting all the people that come to the property, and it means a lot when they comment on like all the little touches that I've done.
And you were, before the podcast, you were talking like you're a big proponent of like Vrbo and Airbnb.
Yes.
Like you were saying that those have made you obviously pretty good money, right? Do you advocate that to anybody who's like, hey, like if someone's going into real estate and they just come to you and you're like, hey, Nicole, I got a couple $100,000 or I got maybe $100,000 and I don't know where to put it, right? Are you gonna say, hey, do Airbnb or do Vrbo or do whatever?
Certainly, I think those platforms have been fantastic because they already have figured out a lot of the legal protections, and they minimize a lot of your risk, right? Like I was able to essentially go through, they have wonderful trainings, at least I started with Airbnb, and so we went through a number of their kind of virtual trainings, and you have a chance to talk to the other hosts and see what they do. But they also have wonderful kind of out-of-the-box contracts. You don't have to think about the bad side of it, right? What if something happens? So they bake in a lot of those protections for you. And we did have a couple of issues the first year, as is probably very normal. Nothing big.
Growing pains.
Right. But it was easy to work with Airbnb because they plan for a lot of that stuff. And there's already a written procedure that if there was damage at our property. We had one of those kind of ornate faucets on the sink where you can pull it down, and then it's got different switches. Well, they pulled too hard and ripped it out of the thing. I mean, they pulled very hard. It was a $400 fix, but Airbnb handled it, right? I showed documentation. No one else had been in the cabin, and, it was ultimately resolved. So I think that's been the benefit for us because we didn't have to recreate the wheel. When we started long-term rental properties, I had to work with a real estate attorney, Laura Volpini, to help put together those contracts. So a lot of that stuff had to be built from scratch, right? And she was fantastic, but that's still an out-of-pocket expense that I had to for my long-term properties. Whereas with Airbnb, you just literally set up your listing, make sure that you fully read the contract and understand what you're on the hook for, right? And what your risks are. But there are a lot of kind of fail-safes there that at least for us, the few little things that have happened, we've been able to be made whole again.
Yeah. So Dominic, on the podcast before, we talk a lot about diversifying your portfolio and everything. And, can you talk on that? Like why is that important to you for sure?
Yeah. I think, I can't remember if we talked about it before or after, but, I have a lot of passions and, marketing and helping organizations reach their goals are certainly at the top of that list. But for myself, I also have a passion of, real estate and meeting people and being able to travel and it was the right fit for us because we were able to help provide some kind of passive income while leveraging other people's money, right? We've gotten into stocks and mutual funds and now cryptocurrency, and I think part of it is
on the crypto train.
Yeah, trying. Yeah. Not big, not like we have millions in our wallet, but we're getting there. And I think I'm always interested and intrigued to see what's out there, and I think that it's all part of our larger mix, and we're very passionate about kind of trying new things and seeing what works for us.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Plans to purchase more real estate down the road? Yeah.
Yes. So I've got my eye on a place. The next one will be a little closer to home. But I've identified an area that I believe that there's a need for good short-term rental properties. So hopefully my husband will probably freak out when he hears this because he's not quite ready, I think. But hopefully in the next, 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, well, this comes out Friday. So
okay, well, fantastic.
You got time to brief him.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
prepping. You're going to hear this.
Yeah, every time I tell him that, like, this is the next thing, and he's like, oh, give me another year. It hasn't even been a year that we have the one property in Airbnb or in Geneva. But he was a little apprehensive at first, and then as soon as we drove out there and we saw it, literally, he was the one in the car, like, we're going to make an offer, right? We're going to buy it. And I'm like, how'd you go from saying no to
Let's do it.
We're buying it, right?
That's cool.
So sometimes he takes a little bit to get on board, but he ultimately comes around.
Very cool. And as far as business, for you, like, was it right out of the gate leaving, with Stuart and your partnership there that you were profitable in your company, or did it take some time for you to get to that point? I mean, talk to us maybe about some of like the early growing pains with Mod that now has led you to the successful business that you are now.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, I had a lot of support, and I was very lucky when I left because I had spent 5 years building a book of business. So it wasn't like I had to, hang my first shingle and go out and find my first client. I walked with clients. So it was fantastic.
So a lot of repeat in this industry.
I mean, at least for us, we've been blessed that the majority of our clients have been with us since the beginning. They were either with me at level 7 or they've, started with Mod, and they do come back time and time again. Mm-hmm. Some of the other things that I love is that some of my clients, they actually worked for me at some point, and now they've gone and they're running, marketing departments for companies. And when they need somebody, they call us, which is great.
Yeah.
And then, or friends. Like I've had a number of friends. Laura's one of them. I have another friend who started a dental practice on the east side, Mayfield Smiles. And when she was ready for a marketing firm, she got to the point where she was ready to take that out of house. Like, she called. So we've been blessed that, I wouldn't say that we were raking in the cash like we were at level 7 at first, but it was also just me.
Sure.
And, I wanted to be very strategic in figuring out this new iteration of the company and what I wanted it to be and the types of clients that I wanted to serve, because I didn't have the huge fancy 7th floor office space anymore and the huge overhead. So I could really be more strategic about serving the people that I wanted to serve. Mm-hmm. And so the first year, we did just fine. And every year we've been more profitable than the last. But I also I'm not looking to be the largest marketing agency in Northeast Ohio. Mm-hmm. I don't have any aspirations of that. It is still about a lifestyle business where I feel close and, blessed that I get to serve the people that I want to serve, and I have a hand in it. It's never going to be so big that it's just not,
You're just sitting on the board.
Not engaged. Right. Yeah. And part of that is that, I get to work from home, and I get to, like I said, be a little bit more flexible and kind of working when I want to work.
So it sounds like for you, most entrepreneurs, you think like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go and open my own thing for the sake of
make $1 billion freaking dollars.
Make a ton of money.
Right.
You're like, hey, I genuinely just want to control my time and my schedule and make money with your passion.
I'd like to make $1 billion too. So if we can get on that plan.
But what do you have to sacrifice though? Yeah. You just keep investing in Bitcoin.
Exactly. I'm just going to keep buying Bitcoin. No, but I think you're absolutely right. I think that if you had asked 27-year-old Nicole, I wanted all of that. Like, I wanted to work for the largest agency. I wanted to be all that. But I think that my priorities have shifted. Mm-hmm. My husband and I met and got married later in life. And I think that it was a very big shift for me when I recognized that, I had something I actually wanted to go home to. Right? And something else that I was passionate about, because I had dated a lot of people in my 20s and 30s that, like, I saw you on the weekends, but I was like working 70 hours, 80 hours. I didn't care, I was focused on my career. And I think it's a little different now. I still work just as hard and probably too many hours, like if you were to ask my husband. Yeah. But I definitely, I feel different, that it's mine, and that it isn't, I don't ever want it to be this mega conglomerate with 100 and some people. That's just not the business I want to build.
Mm-hmm. And then you're going to have to, forfeit obviously time, energy,
Right. I love that I know everybody intimately, and I know their kids, and I know, I've worked with a lot of them for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. I love that.
Mm-hmm. How many employees?
So we have 4 full-time employees, and then we have several contractors. Mm-hmm. So about 14 total people. Several of the contractors work very closely. Like, you wouldn't really know that they weren't full-time employees, but that's the arrangement that works best for them. Mm-hmm. We're small but mighty.
Very nice.
Yeah. And I
that's
like
awesome.
it.
How are we doing on time, guys?
We're at like 50-ish.
Okay.
Cool. Your level of involvement, like, are you still staying in on like day-to-day productions as far as like even for your clients' projects that they're requesting and this and that, or are you sitting back kind of like in just not the observing seat but like running the ship? And then where do you see that going over maybe the next 5, 10 years? Let's just go there.
So I think over the years I've figured out the things that I do well and the things that I do well and I love and the stuff I never want to do again.
Sure.
And the sweet spot that I've landed on where I think, drive the most value to the company is I am intimately involved in all the strategy for our accounts. So what that means is from, the first meeting to the last, I am helping those clients really understand what the end goal is and how we get there. Because I get a lot of phone calls from people that say, well, Nicole, can you do social media for us? Our competitors are doing social media. We need social media. Okay, well, what do you think you're going to get out of that? Because I don't just think you need social media. Like, what do you want to do, right? What is the end goal? And they're like, right, but we just need social media. You do that, right? And I'm like, we do that. But what are you ultimately trying to do? What's success tomorrow? Is it phones ringing? Is it more sales? Whatever. Because until you answer that question, I do social media, but I'm not just going to give you a proposal for that until I understand what we're actually trying to do, because that might not be the best or the most effective way to get there. And so I will come out and my role will really be that, helping really get down to the nitty gritty. Because a lot of times they'll say, well, I need a new logo or I need this. Okay, well, what do you think you're going to get out of that? Because I don't just want to design a new logo to design a new logo, right? There's a lot of people that can do that. What I want to do is actually help you figure out what's actually going to drive you forward and what's going to get results. So I help put together the strategy, and then I assemble the right team of people to actually deliver those results. Then I'll, have regular check-ins with the team as, the project unfolds, and then help the client implement it and make sure that they're actually measuring for results. Right?
I like that.
You really do have to dissect that, right? I mean, even when we get clients and everything that say, they call in, or you get a client and they're like, I just want the lowest interest rate. That's it, just lowest interest rate. Yeah. Well, okay, we can talk about that, but what else is there?
Right.
Then you come to find out, oh my gosh, I'm getting kicked out of my house. I got to move in 30 days. Dude, you don't care about the interest rate. You don't. You want to move in quickly. Right. That's why. And we can do that.
Right.
And everything. So really, it's asking questions, dissecting, seeing what they're actually needing,
right.
Instead of just that face value.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people will come to us and they have had bad experiences, or there's this perception, in our industry that if I, tell you exactly what I want, or I tell you my budget, you're just going to write the proposal to that. No, I'm trying to understand, like you said, what are the actual parameters we're working with, right? Because everyone kind of has a budget, whether they want to tell you or not. And they ultimately know what keeps them up at night in terms of what's the ultimate success, what's the solution that you actually need. Because a lot of times it's not social media, or it's not this one thing, right? It's a mixture of different marketing and advertising activities to get you there. And then it's you being strategic on the other end to measure the results and then come back to us and say, this is the feedback, right? We're not getting the right types of prospects, or, whatever it is, so we can tweak and refine the campaign to hopefully get it closer.
What's effective.
Right. But it's that open communication loop that I feel like a lot of companies are just
looking over.
Right.
Yeah, looking over, because I mean, at that point, I think you're just not fulfilling an order.
Right.
The order's put in, you're just fulfilling it. You know,
Right.
like you can go do that on Fiverr.
Right.
You know, you can literally go
Right.
do that on Fiverr
Right.
and just have like a logo created for yourself.
Right.
But to genuinely sit down with the person, whether it be face to face, Zoom to Zoom, whatever it
Right.
might be, phone to, you know, over the phone, to be able to find out, well, okay, like, you know, again, you say you want the lowest rate, but like, what else is there? You know, what else you have going on? Hey, you say you need this
Right.
logo, but like, what is it ultimately going to be used for? What are you using the social media for? What do you think you're going to gain from it? Or are you just going to waste your money? Because you can go to any 18-year-old now and ask them to like run your social media. Everybody freelances that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's like, what is your objective? What do you think you're going to get out of it?
You're 100% right. And I think that is one of probably my biggest pet peeves in talking with organizations is that, you know, we'll say, who's doing your marketing today or what have you done? And they're like, oh, well, so-and-so is really good on the phone and they're really good with apps. So they do our social media and we got that handled. And it's like, that's not the way it works. Again, it all has to come with the strategy. What are we trying to solve for? What are the activities that we're doing to drive there? And are you measuring them and actually making strategic moves to make sure you're moving in the right direction?
So then will you do like ad campaigns and everything too, digitally?
We do,
okay.
yeah.
You set that up for individuals, companies, whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, depending on what you're trying to do, it's most likely a mix of things, right? If you're trying to drive new leads, you know, build brand awareness, there's all of these different levers that we can pull that all work together to move you in the right direction. But a lot of times, you know, prospects will get very focused on one or two aspects of it and say, well, I just want to do this. Or, you know, content marketing was such a big buzzword for, you know, the last probably 5 years. Everyone thinks they need to do content marketing. Well, tell me why.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Tell me
just,
what
I think
you
it's just
you're gonna
because
get out of it.
they
Right.
know like something, like it's going that way. Like I think you have a lot of these old heads who are still running
Right.
businesses these days that realize like, oh my God, social media is a big thing.
Right.
It's let me slap up a couple like Facebook posts when in reality, like that's literally so paper thin.
Correct.
There's so much more to it and like a strategic way to actually put things out there to where you're actually gaining traction and putting your brand in front of people enough, so much so, because you would probably know this too, like, and we've talked about this before, isn't there like a psychological study, like you have to see something like seven times before you will even engage it?
Correct.
And like put it in your cart and order it?
Correct.
You know, so like to know like how to do that and then to put it in the specific areas and the zip codes and the right demographic to where they're seeing it repeatedly.
Correct.
To then drive that engagement, that's important.
Right.
You know?
Dude, that's so true.
Right.
Like I keep seeing, I literally looked up the you know how Tanko's got that remarkable too. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
Like,
I have one.
Is it? So okay.
Oh yes.
Bro,
Yes.
So I literally just, I was
his
like,
notebook.
Yes.
dude, it's amazing.
I have one. It's awesome.
So
Is it?
I literally just looked it up just to see like, maybe I'll get it. I don't know. And then all of a sudden I get all these advertisements on Facebook, on my phone. I'm watching YouTube for it. And I'm like, dude, I gotta get it.
You gotta get it. Yep. Well, and that's, I mean, you guys know this being in sales, like you're moving down the funnel, right?
Yeah.
So you're going
It worked out.
It worked.
right. You're going through all those stages from, you know, you're aware of it, you're learning about it, you like it, then it's there, and you're like, okay, just sign me up. Here's my card. You know? So it's absolutely right. And all of those things play into it, right?
Yeah.
It's the referral, you know, seeing it, touching it, especially with tech. I did the same thing. One of my clients got one and I was like, what are you working with over there? And next thing I know, it's going on my Christmas list and my husband's getting husband of the year for buying me one.
The thing's legit.
It is legit. Yes.
Is that like, is for that, like, does it, because I mean, I played with it 2 weeks ago when he brought it in. Does it transfer like right over to a document and then like go up to your screen or something? Okay.
Yes. So you can either have it,
Oh my.
basically take what you wrote, and my handwriting is terrible,
Yeah.
or you can convert it.
Yeah.
So like
And
just
so
printed.
it takes a little bit for it to learn like really bad handwriting like mine. But it's way easier to go in and fix those few words that it's like, I'm not even going to try. I have no idea what you wrote there, than it does to retype everything.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people that it like gets seared into my brain if I actually handwrite
Oh
it.
yeah.
Oh, that's
Right.
Yeah.
Because then I
absolutely.
know exactly where on what page, and like if I made a doodle next to it or
Yes,
whatever.
Sure.
Right. And so this thing is, it's legit.
That's absolutely like. Can you imagine if you brought this piece of technology back to like the 1940s? You'd be like a wizard. You
It's
know what I mean?
crazy.
Like what? But I don't know, man. I love it. Just
Did you
because-
get it?
I'm ordering it, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I went back because I'm going to order one for my fiance too because she takes a lot of notes as well. So I was like, dude, screw it.
That's very cool.
Yes.
Very cool.
Did you sign up for the Connect?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, good. Because I was going to say you save $100.
No, you don't.
I feel like
you don't do that.
Not anymore?
I didn't get it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I was pretty salty about that.
I'm sorry. I feel like we're doing a commercial for them. We should
I know.
Yeah, right.
We should all get ad revenue.
Get a sponsor code here. Check out with code 10. Yeah, you get 10% off.
But to be very truthful, I mean, like in any industry you're in, you have to have a technological edge, right? So whether that is getting this insane piece of technology, the Remarkable 2, or if it's getting an iPad or whatever have you, it's like, dude. You have to be able to streamline your process, and however you make that easier, it's like for me. I mean, it is a little bit pricier, right? Mm-hmm. But the way I see it is, well, if it makes my day go smoother, and I can think about more things that are creative, like I can think of, maybe I have an idea that we want to do a video for somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Like maybe I wouldn't have that idea if I'm bogged down 10 extra minutes by a client who I forgot something that I wrote down on a piece of paper that I put somewhere. Now I got to find that piece of paper to put it back into the system when I could just go back and just open it up. So very truthfully, I mean, I see it as it's a business expense. I mean, obviously I'll use it for leisure too, but it's definitely helping,
Well, and it's so funny you say that because I have such a good team that I have definitely gotten out of the habit of, doing my project management recap and like action items, right? After meetings, because my team does it now and they're all, it's perfect. But a few of these calls lately where it's just been me and same thing, I'm like, oh, now I have to go back and do all my notes. Nope. Remarkable's fantastic in that. Cause I find that, they now do it for me, that I've gotten out of the habit of, doing my action items and my follow-up notes, but it's all there.
Making me curious. I might have to go look.
Yeah.
Dude,
you know what? And it's so funny because I almost brought my laptop bag with it, but then I was like, I don't think I'm going to need anything. So I left it at home.
See, that was that little intuitive guide there that told you to bring it.
We're going to cut this up, this like section of this podcast, and we're going to send it to Remarkable.
You should.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be like, listen, you want this clip?
Then maybe you'll get one for free.
Yeah.
Just be like, hey, we don't need ad revenue. We just need one for free.
Yeah,
we just plugged you.
Yes,
exactly.
Yep. That's awesome. Very cool. In closing, I want to ask what is your driver? Is it revenue? Is it money? Is it internal gratification? Is it your passion for things? What lights Nicole up? Why do you get up and enjoy what it is you do? What drives you in life?
There's probably a couple of different drivers. I am just very curious, and I love to just make things work and solve problems. I think that's probably the biggest, right? But the other, I think, is definitely just my family, right? My parents, they did everything, and you gave me every opportunity in life. Worked really hard, but they wanted me to do better, right? And I'm trying to do that for myself and for my family. And so I would say that, I want to make sure that my devil baby Shiba puppy has the best life. And, my husband and I are able to do things and travel and, to feel as though we can enjoy life, right? And you need certain financial securities to be able to do that. So I would say that, now that's probably the biggest, is that I want to live a comfortable life so we can enjoy our family and friends, and we love to travel, and we're hoping to try and travel again now that restrictions are hopefully going to be lifting.
Same with Ukraine.
But I would probably say that it's just, you always want to, that next generation, you always want it to be better. We have nephews, and we want to be able to support them and see them grow, and be able to basically just make things good for our family, our nuclear family, as well as our extended family.
Amazing.
And my last question is just any business advice, right?
Business advice. I would probably say that if you're anything like me, type A, probably pretty stubborn, decisive, right, and just move fast, learn from kind of my wisdom that finally, I've been in business for 21 years, that I probably could have benefited from slowing down and, asking for more help early on. Whereas I think I was confident.
That's hard for a type A.
It is. And I would say that, learn to ask for help early on. I've gotten better at that over the years and felt more comfortable being vulnerable, I think, the older I've gotten. But I wish I had learned that lesson early on because I was just gung-ho, ready to go, get it done, right? And I still could probably benefit from that advice personally.
Yeah, very good. I think that's, a normal,
Solid.
a normal like energy stage that we all kind of go through. When you're in your 20s, that's like, they call it like the athletic stage or the warrior stage, where like you're going through and you think you have it and you're just going out there and you're trying everything and you do it. You don't need help and I got it. And then when you get a little bit older in life, you realize like, I can rely on like my community and the people around me. And like, we're all kind of here to help benefit each other and the community around me as well.
Yeah.
So, very cool.
Yeah, and just,
cool.
Ask for help. I'm
That's
still
right.
not very good at that.
Yeah.
But I think the more people I meet and the more clients that we serve and develop relationships with, there's a lot you can learn from so many different people and so many different sources. And I think just taking the time to appreciate them and learn from them is something that I need to continue to do as well.
Good deal. Awesome. Well, this has been fun.
Wonderful having you on.
Yeah, thank you so much. Where like, do you have a website people can find Mod on?
So Mod is available at yourmarketingondemand.com. And we're also on Facebook, LinkedIn. So check us out. I'd love to talk to anybody who has any, burning questions about marketing, advertising, website design, photography. Let me know.
The whole nine.
The whole nine. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Nicole, thank you much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.